right, well, getting back to the topic of the day, building a winning marketing plan. So we've gone through a lot, going through the mental part, and so just a quick review. The reason you want to put together a marketing plan in the first place is that you want to get the biggest bang for your buck. You want to stop thinking like a realtor. Now, remember that the goal of your marketing plan is to be totally clear on what you're trying to accomplish. And this means in terms of sales numbers, market share, income, time off, the way your business operates. So where so many people get themselves into trouble when they're working on that plan is they'll say, well, I just want to increase sales, I want more time off, but they don't specify like how much time off they want. And if you just say, well, I want to make X number of dollars, what I've also found is that you can make X number of dollars, but it may not be profitable dollars. So you say, well, I want to sell $35 million and, earn $1 million in gross commission income, and you accomplish that, and it costs you $980,000 to do that. So you accomplished the goal, but was that really useful? No. So this is, how much profit do you want? How much savings do you want? How much do you want to do this? And the more clearly you can specify that, the better chance you have of actually accomplishing those goals. So the more unclear your mission is, what you're really trying to accomplish, the harder it is to build an effective game plan. And this is where I see so many people when they're building a game plan, they aren't clear what they're all trying to accomplish. They know they need a plan. And in their mind, well, some plan is better than nothing. And sometimes I wonder if that's really true. So just be clear, what are you really trying to accomplish? Then we really talked about last time how important your message actually is, getting clear on what's your marketing message. And remember that your marketing message can really only do three things. It has to build awareness, or it can build awareness. It can differentiate you from other realtors, and it can remind people that you're there. That's all marketing can do. It can't do anything else out there. Just roll a chair in.
Oh, okay. Sorry. It's like, what's the least distracting way you can come in?
Hey, Kristen, come and take mine. I'll take it.
I thought it just went down there. Roll some chairs in, it's okay.
Sorry, guys.
So the other thing is when you're thinking about your message and you're starting a marketing plan, you sort of have to remember that this is the order.
Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
That's okay, we'll talk about time next time.
Listening to my lab this morning. Okay, sorry.
So these are the order in which marketing really happens. Before you can be different, people have to know that you're actually in the market. They have to have a basic awareness of you. So name awareness, basic name recognition is the number one thing to start with when you're building a marketing plan. Once you've established name recognition, now you can work more on how am I different. Then, once you've established a high-quality, credible brand, you're just reminding people that you're there. And this is where we can get faked out in that people work 10, 15 years, and then they cut back on their marketing, and they don't really notice a impact in the first 3, 4, 5 months that they cut back on their marketing. Business keeps coming in. Everything that they, well, gosh, I'm really saving a lot on my marketing dollars. But understand they've already built that up over time, but as time goes on, you start to lose more and more business. And so it's, yes, you can cut back once you've clearly established, but it's going to diminish over time. That's why you want to maintain that presence. So, to me, one of the best examples of this is the Maytag repairman. So, when Maytag introduced the Maytag repairman, first of all, anybody have an idea of when they introduced the Maytag repairman?
No, but their commercials are pretty awesome lately. Must have been in the 50s, I don't know.
It was actually 1948
Okay.
was their first Maytag repairman. No. And so they've been using that campaign for a long time. Now, in the first year Maytag launched their campaign, Maytag as a corporation actually lost a significant amount of money because they invested so much in marketing. It wasn't until the third year of that campaign that they actually made money from it. So they invested for 3 years to build name awareness, and they stayed consistent with a very steady campaign for about 15 years. Since then, they've done off and on advertising, but we all still know the Maytag repairman. What's really amazing is Maytag today spends a huge amount of money on radio. And the funny thing is, if you actually listen to their radio spots without understanding the Maytag repairman concept, they don't even make any sense. They only make sense in context of, we know who they are. We fill in so much of the blanks. So they do all these little 15-second spots, just reinforcing the Maytag repairman, and Maytag keeps rolling, doing incredibly well year after year after year. So just remember what you're trying to accomplish. Which brings us to effective frequency, and we talked a little bit about this. And remember that effective frequency is, what do you need to do to actually produce a positive response and awareness, attitude, and purchasing action? Now, if you look at all the research in traditional marketing and advertising, all the research shows that 5 to 7 exposures a month for a minimum of 3 months is the minimum level of effective frequency. All the research also shows if you start with a high frequency, so that you're building unaided name awareness, you can now follow up with a lower level of consistent advertising. This produces the most economical results. So you want to front load your marketing, get into their mind, and then let it diminish over time. Now, the best marketing plans use multiple media choices. And we talked about the fact that, you've got to think about more than one media. So here's what I really want you to do, and your homework is to start thinking about, how do I get 3 to 5 strong marketing impressions a month into my client's mind? And then remember that every piece has different impact. So you can mail out a piece of direct mail, and you know that, gosh, people actually have to physically throw that away. I can run a Facebook ad, but I may not go to Facebook that often. I may not be paying attention to it. So a single Facebook exposure does not have the same impact as a piece of direct mail or a phone call. And I think sometimes we get confused by different things. So you have to say, how do I make sure that if I'm using digital media, I'm still having the same impact as a piece of direct mail or a phone call? And that's usually through repetition. So, now the good news is that it's economical. So if you run, this is just my opinion, I don't have any research to back this up, so I just want to make sure that's clear. To me, 25 Facebook ads, 25 to 30, tends to make about the same impact psychologically as a piece of direct mail. About 60 Facebook ad exposure makes about the same impact as a single call. That's just my guess. But so think about, how do I do this? Then make a list of all the different media options you have available to you. And then lay out at least 3 different ways you can think of delivering that message effectively. We tend to get hung up on a particular way, but if you can say, okay, well, I have all these options. What are the 3 different ways that I can deliver that message? What combination of things to get the exposure that I want to? And then come up with make sure that you've got a variety of media options that are all working together to put in front of your target marketplace. As you're doing this, the other thing to think about is this. How are my competitors doing in this particular medium? Let's say you have a competitor in your area that is dominating, in a particular medium. They are either doing direct mail effectively, or they've really gotten a heavy impact in Google AdWords or online presence. If you have a dominant competitor and you're going to compete with them in the same medium, what do you think you're going to have to do?
Something different.
But in the same medium, is it easy to be different?
No.
And so what you're going to have to do is say, I'm going to have to be different, and I'm going to have to outspin them. I need to have more of an impact than they do. All the research also shows that if I see somebody in a particular medium, and now I see a competitor, unless the competitor is truly different, it actually helps my competitor more than and it hurts me. So look at your competition and say, how can I really stand out? How can I be different with my message? Or how can I be in different medium? Competing head to head is always the hardest thing to do. So in every publication, ask how often is it published? Can I develop the consistency and frequency that I need to have? We also talked briefly about putting together an understanding of what is the cost per exposure of every ad. So calculate, take the cost of the ad divided by the people reached, and really be aware of the differences in frequency and impact. Now, I believe that name recognition and your basic brand identity are the key elements that will give you effective frequency faster. I see a lot of pieces going out from here that the house is the star and the agent is almost invisible on. And it just, every time I see those, my heart just dies a little bit. Because I think, oh my goodness, the agent is spending the money, they're doing 90% of the work and they're getting a tiny fraction of the value. So make sure that your name is always clear. I mean, ask yourself, if somebody just glanced at this, I don't care whether it's a Facebook ad, a piece of direct mail, an ad, if I just glanced at it, would I know, oh, it was Robert? Would I know it was Adam? And the more distinctive you can make your stuff, when we glance at Maytag's campaigns, we glance at it and we know it's Maytag. We glance at an Apple commercial and we know it's Apple. We glance at a Target commercial, and in the first 3 seconds, we know it's a Target commercial. How powerful is that? And so make sure that you're doing that same thing. You're building your style, your look, your message. And then remember that there's no one magic answer. I see people spending what I call huge amounts of time trying to figure out the perfect media plan. And there's normally a number of different ways that will produce the results you're looking for. So lay out a number of different marketing plans and come up with some concepts. Maybe you say, I'm going to send out 3 pieces of direct mail to my target marketplace of $1,000 each month in my farm. Make a number of offers to collect emails in the farm and send out 2 additional emails a month. To past clients, send out 1 piece of mail every other month and an email only months with no mail. Then I'm going to focus on relationship, building calls, those types of things. Now another concept would be to send out 1 mailing a card a month to a farm area. Target farm area with 15 to 20 Facebook ads per month. that drive people to a landing page, collect email addresses, send 2 email marketing messages a month in the farm area, and to my sphere, send out 1 piece of mail a quarter, 1 email a month, run custom Facebook ad campaign targeting my sphere of influence with 15 ads a month, driving them to a referral landing page or a landing page designed for your past clients. Now, if you really look at those 2 campaigns, they're accomplishing the same thing. They're just doing it differently. So you have to look at and say, what's your style? What do you feel most comfortable with? And put together the campaign that you like. And I really have found that there's no single magic campaign that is universal for everybody. And once you have clearly established your brand recognition, people know you, you have name recognition. If you talk to the people in your target marketplace or your farm area, if at least half the people could recognize your name in a fairly unaided way, that's when what I call the secondary media options become valuable. The billboards, the shopping cart things, bus benches, those types of things. The research shows that until you've established name recognition very clearly, these types of things tend to have very little impact. Once you have name recognition, once I recognize you, having something where I just look at you at a glance, but part of this is also, does that bus bench remind me instantly of all the rest of your marketing? Does it make me recall, oh, this is the guy that sends me that mail. Oh, I see his Facebook advertising all the time. And so this is where it's tying it all together. Then you want to make sure you have that consistency to commit to 6 to 9 months of really consistent marketing before you really start saying, is it working or is it not working? Now, I found if you really focus on building strong name recognition, it's only going to take 2 to 4 months of consistent marketing to see an increase in your business. Now, here's the key to remember. A decent plan will make you rich. You don't need a magic plan. Now, what you want to do is lay it out for a year. So you say, and the great thing is with technology today, you just pull out a spreadsheet. You pull out an Excel spreadsheet, and on the top you put the weeks of the year. Now, January through December, each week, we've got 52 weeks each year, and you say, okay, now I know that I need to have my 3 to 5 exposures per month laid out. So here's how I'm going to actually do that. Here's the mailings I'm going to send out, here's the advertising, and you lay out a complete year in advance. Now, the reason you want to lay out a complete year is now you can work backwards from that. You say, okay, I've got this ad campaign, and in your game plan you say, okay, I know I need to have this Facebook ad, this landing page done by X date. And if you work backwards from this, you'll now have a plan that will just move you forward slowly and progressively to get there. Now, people always struggle. They say, well, Greg, right now I don't really have a plan, and I can't really bring myself to put together a whole year plan of everything. So start with a plan for a single thing. Say, let me put together a year-long plan for my Facebook advertising campaign. Once you have that up and running, you have your Facebook ads running, you have your landing page, you have your follow-up, then you say, okay, let me put together my direct mail campaign. And you spend a month or 2 working on that element. Then you say, okay, let me put together my past client campaign. And you just start with one little piece of it, put that up and running, and complete it. Here's the key. Don't start on step 2 until step 1 is done. Everybody follow that?
That's very key.
Terry Perenich, I feel like, was one of the best students I ever had. He came to a seminar in Newport Beach that I did, and right after he started in real estate up in Edmonton, Canada. And I still remember meeting Terry for the first time because Terry is this little guy. He's probably 5'2", maybe 110 pounds soaking wet. He's just a small person. And he said, Greg, I got to make this work. He said, I have been trying to make it as a professional hockey player for the last 10 years. And when I met Terry, he was like 32 years old. And if you know anything about hockey, being a 110-pound guy, trying to play professional hockey, the odds are not in your favor, just physically. And he'd been beaten up, he'd broken arms, legs, everything. And he said, I know I'm not the brightest tack in the box.
That's cute.
That's really cute.
He said, so I have to make this work. And he left in his first year, he went and he did exactly that. He said, I made a commitment to do something to put one of your programs in place every month. And at the end of the year, he had 12 systems up and running. And at the end of his first full year in real estate, he had sold almost $12 million worth of real estate. Now, in Edmonton, at an average sales price of about $90,000 at the time,
Wow,
that was a lot of real estate.
that's impressive.
And then he stayed consistent with that over and over and over again. And today, Terry is the #1 realtor in Canada in Edmonton. Little tiny area, not Toronto, not where it's luxury. And he just is so consistent with everything he does. Now, when you walk into Edmonton, if you ever go there, you would swear Terry owns the town. You cannot go anywhere without seeing Terry Perenich. I mean, it's like almost overwhelming. But you start to understand this is why he dominates Edmonton. I mean, it's shocking. I think he had 18% of the total board volume in Edmonton, just as a single agent.
And I see some of the looks on your faces. I just want to let you know, don't beat yourself up that you didn't do this before, that you haven't been consistent with something, or didn't build this. I see the look on your face, Paula. I'm like, I can read your mind. It's okay. You can do it now. It's okay.
And then, don't get hung up on.
You just beat yourself up. I can see it.
We're not dead yet, we still have time.
I'm fine. Got this. Got this.
So understand there's never going to be a perfect plan or a perfect place. Now, the other thing is, I've been studying marketing for a long time, and marketing is not an exact science. You've got to make some judgment calls. And so just use what I call common sense, use some of the things we're talking about here, and then put together the plan and just stay with the plan. It's staying with the plan, and just like in a sporting contest, yes, you have a plan, but then you have opponents, and you get into the game, and guess what? The more effectively you can follow your game plan for a longer period of time, the better off you're going to be. I loved a recent interview with Kevin Durant that I saw, and people said, you know, what made Golden State so effective? He says, we're able to stay to our game plan and execute at a higher level longer than our opponents, and that's the only difference. And that's really the only difference. It's staying out there, you know, every realtor can provide reasonable service. So don't get hung up on trying to be the best realtor. Try and be hung up on how to be the most visible realtor, and you'll do better. It's visibility and likability that really make you massively successful in this business. You know, it's sometimes frustrating, but it's not our ability, it's our visibility in real estate that makes the biggest difference. So set aside 3 to 6 weeks, 3 to 6 hours a week, and then work on your business plan. And then get started. Don't wait until you have every bit of knowledge, every bit of research that you could do. Just start your plan. So, questions about building your plan?
Does it all start with, a message, a tagline, a logo?
You already know the answer to that. So, it reminds me of the people yesterday. They're arguing for that. That limitation bill. Well, can I skip that step?
One client said 1,000 3 times a month. And yet I've heard that 500 would be a good number. to
I would
start.
start with 500.
Okay.
So the key is to, when you're starting a marketing plan, look at a small enough number that you can commit to that 6 to 9 months of being consistent before it taps you out financially.
Well, that's it.
Yeah.
And then you can afford.
So you don't want to start with a giant farm that you can afford to mail to once.
Where people go wrong, and I'm not sure exactly what year it was or who said it, but there was this thing where everyone was told, I don't know what coach it was or what summer, that 2,500 was the farm amount. And that's why most people didn't have farmers, is because they would start with that and then they would only be able to do like 2 mailings. And they would expect a result right away. And I do remember that. Everyone was like 2,500 was a farm. And
Well, so
you eventually get
a
to
number
that.
of people, a number of top producers said, well, I got stuck at a lower level because my farm was only 300 people. Once I went to 500 people, but
You
what
grow.
they really didn't say was, well, and I'd already built up enough budget that I could expand.
Right.
And then as people got more and more successful, they'd go up to, 5, 15, 10,000 people in their farm area. And they were dominating, but it took them time to build that. Now, so if you want to do 200 transactions a year, you probably aren't going to accomplish that in a 300-person farm. Well, you need a big enough farm to do that, but if you don't have the resources to farm, you're never going to get there. So it's start with what you can afford, not maybe where you want to be 5, 10 years from now. Be that consistent person, and that's where also maybe you realize, well, I have very little money, then you need to put together a marketing plan that says, okay, that's where I'm going to door knock X number of days a week, I'm going to cold call my sphere, and you put together a plan, and as that's generating what I call the business, as you get money, now start a long-term campaign. Because what I see is that what people do up front to get their career off the ground changes over time. And some of the greatest door knockers out there no longer door knock, but they've replaced their door knocking with other activities.
And you guys are really fortunate in this area because you can do a 300-person farm or whatever. Just do it in like a $2 million median price point. It doesn't. It's much different than other areas where you want to do 500 to 1,000 because the price point's 150 grand. Right? So, you can go smaller. Just really be very, very particular about the price point.
I mean, and I've seen people farm and shockingly, I mean, we forget how spoiled we are here. No. Our price point really does make a huge impact.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's like,
totally.
if you're in Grand Rapids, Michigan,
Right.
oh,
Well, Greg, one of the things that I'm hearing really addresses my failure and that my impatience. I'll come up with a great plan in my mind. It's a great plan, multiple sources going after a distinct target. And if it doesn't work in a couple months, I think that I failed. And what you're sharing with us is expect it to be marginal for the first 6 to
Yes.
9 months, but don't give up because you need the name recognition, you need the differentiation and all of that. So that is a message that I'm going to take away.
I mean, so many agents get discouraged and stop right about the time it would start paying off.
Or change it to something.
Right.
Or they change it completely. I mean, this is where, again, I see so many agents get themselves into trouble trying the plan of the week. And let's face it, in real estate, there's a new shiny object every week.
Yeah.
There's always something you can do, but, you know, when you really study the people that succeed on Zillow, they're usually doing other things or have done other things before Zillow worked for them. It's like, so this is where you've got to be careful of what I call the sales pitches that people hear, you know, for a particular process. It's like, well, look at the people, look at the examples they're doing. So one of my long-term clients is a guy named Walter Sanford. Some of you may have been to Walter's seminars over the years.
Is he still around?
He's just
Long
retired.
Beach, right?
He was in Long Beach, and then he moved back east, got married, and became a real estate coach and did training for a long time. But when he made the switch from being an active realtor to being a trainer, he did a seminar for a number of years on how to build a cold calling team. And he was one of the first people that really sort of popularized the team concept in real estate. And he always talked about, well, listen, I doubled my business a year. I hired 3 telemarketers that called expireds for me and called for sale owners for me. And he had this very good script, and he'd say, you hire this, you know, here's the type of person you need, here's the script to give them. And I talked to lots and lots of people that bought his script and made the calls and never got the results that he did. What Walter failed to say, well, before I started a team and cold calling in this area, I had been the #1 agent in Long Beach for 12 years in a row and had been dominating the media and was a household name.
Wow.
So when my cold caller said, hi, I'm calling on behalf of Walter Sanford, it was not the same as, hi, I'm calling on behalf of John Smuck agent you've never heard of. There is a quantitatively different impact. So you've got to always look at the whole marketing campaign, not just a single activity. Yes?
I just have a quick question. If, let's say you come up with a plan, this is it, we love it, we're gonna send it out, we're gonna do a whole year plan. After 2 months, 3 months, you haven't really gotten anything, and I said, I understand you wanna go through the whole thing. Do you tweak this, or does this stay
No.
consistent?
Stays consistent.
Word for word consistent, visually consistent,
Yes.
color-wise consistent?
Yes. At least for the first 6 months. At 6 months, you can actually test the marketplace by sending out some questionnaires, maybe doing some phone surveys, and say, do I need to make any adjustments? But until you've been there consistently, and the best example of this is a wonderful gentleman in Maine. And he came to a seminar and he, by his own recognition, had said, actually, let me see if I can actually find him.
You know, I can always tell when your wheels are turning, Pablo.
You know, well, all chairs to begin.
I know, yeah, really.
You have a good one.
So,
Chair, Robin can't see you.
so I met a guy named Jay Canone, and I can't seem to find the little video clip I had of Jay. And Jay's father was a broker owner. Now, his father was a old school broker owner that said, the way to succeed in real estate is cold call 3 to 4 hours a day.
Oh man, kill me.
I was gonna say, yeah,
Kill me.
I'll be delivering packages.
Yeah, I'll go face to face with him.
So Jay got into real estate, and for the first few years, he actually made a pretty decent living, was selling like $2 to $3 million a year in real estate. Now this goes back a long time, and was doing pretty well. I mean, not great, but doing okay. But after 5 years of cold calling 3 to 4 hours a day, by his own admission, he was burnt out. He said, I couldn't bring myself to call again. And he came to one of my seminars and he said, well, you know, last year I barely made like $23,000 in income. And he told me the story, his wife and his 3 kids were living in a 1,000 square foot home, barely making it. But he said, I can't keep doing this. So he decided to build a marketing campaign, and he followed everything perfectly. And back then we did a monthly conference call with everybody, and about 9 months into his campaign, he got on the phone and he said, listen, I'm doing everything. Everything I have executed every month without fail, followed the plan, and it's not working. I have not gotten anything. And so I actually called Jay and said, Jay, you know, what's going on? Looked at his plan. I said, are you getting any positive feedback from the market? He said, well, yeah, I'm getting a lot of positive feedback. He said, it just drives me crazy. He says, I walk into my cleaners, and my cleaners say, hi, Jay, I love the stuff you're sending out about real estate. It's great. He says, I walk into the store, and people stop me and say, hey, Jay, you're that realtor. I love it. He says, but nobody's calling me. Nobody's listing their house with me. People are just recognizing me. He says, I feel like I'm the biggest fraud in the world because people think I'm successful in real estate, and I'm not selling anything. Now, when he started his marketing campaign, he totally stopped cold calling completely. So when he stopped his one source of lead income, started marketing, and it wasn't paying off, what do you think happened to his income?
Went down.
And when it goes down from $27,000, it's not that good. And he was borrowing money, begging to stay on this plan. He said, I'm about ready to call my father and ask him for money, and that's the worst thing I could possibly ever do, because he thinks that marketing is a total waste of time, and you should never market. He said, should I stop this? Should I stay consistent? And I really looked at everything he'd done. I said, Jay, I know if you keep at it, it will eventually pay off. Mm-hmm. And literally, he stayed on his marketing campaign, and he got his first transaction 13 months into the campaign. Now, you think, is it worth it? But in the 3 months after he got his first transaction in his campaign, he did almost $6 million worth of business. And the following year, he did $12 million. And today, he does about $40 to $50 million a year in real estate sales, and just is doing incredibly well. If you talk to Jay, he said those waiting for your marketing campaign to kick in is the hardest thing he's ever gone through. That's why very few people actually succeed, because they don't have the patience to hang in there. They don't have that consistency, or up front, they have no message. They have nothing that's distinctly theirs. You know, and to me, that's why if you stay consistent with it, it makes such a huge difference. And in the short term, if you do anything consistently, it'll work. So I do happen to have this little video.
This is Jay's video.
No, I couldn't find Jay's, so this is Joanne Barrett's.
Well, I'm Joanne Barrett. I live in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and I've been selling real estate, or rather I've been in real estate since 2006. Before that, I owned a small chain of specialty toy stores. I had 4 stores, but it was a really strong business, and White Rabbit Toys. And actually, my business was the largest in 3 states, including Illinois, so I was really proud of that. And through White Rabbit Toys, I was very active in the National Toy Retailing Association. I was president and on the board of directors, so I was really doing well. And then with the Michigan economy, I lost my business. My sales went down 50% in 1 year, and my stores just started closing one after another. And so after I lost my business, I lost my home also. I sold it and barely broke even. In fact, I owed a little bit of money and chose to go into real estate, oddly enough. So I went into real estate and was quite surprised at how hard it was. So I knew I had to do something in order to earn a living. And by this time, I was really pretty poverty-stricken. I didn't have a home. I was renting. And actually, there were times at the meeting today, you asked people, you know, do you ever go home hungry? Well, yes, I did. I actually did, and I was hiding it from people. Nobody would think of it to look at me. My shoes were wearing out, and I used to, when I would show people homes, and my car was very old too, but when I would show people homes, I had holes in the front of my shoes. And when I would take my shoes off to show people through the house, I would put them up against the wall board so they wouldn't see the holes in them. And my car was sold by this time that when I would drive people around, I would drive in back of them so they wouldn't see the rust in my car. Anyway, I looked on the internet because I knew I needed good marketing. And it was very obvious to me that Hobbs Herder was represented the cream of the crop in marketing. So I got my money together and came to my first Hobbs Herder conference, and I'm not sure how I scraped it together to come to the conference, but I thought after I go to this conference, I'm staying with my brother and I'll go buy some shoes. And after the conference, I said, no, I'm not going to. I'm going to take that money and I'm going to put it into a brochure and I'm going to do it. So I wasn't able to go full tilt. I couldn't afford to do the mailing, so I did everything that would be free, handing out my brochure. I did open houses. At any rate, I was able to build my business consistently, but not explosively. But I did, and I went from 2 million to 5 million. Last year I did about 7.5 million. This year I'll do about 9 million. And each time I just took another step. So my first step was the brochure and all the print materials. My second huge step was the website. Was just, I'm in a university community, so it was incredibly important. And after that, I hired an assistant, which is freeing up time to start doing some of the systems. And I'm really looking forward to just going all in. And I'm going to do 20 million next year, and I promise you I will.
Now remember, that's in Michigan. So to have those numbers,
Yeah.
it takes a lot of sales.
And she made a commitment to pass out 5 brochures every day to somebody that she didn't know. And she lived near a Target.
Yes. Sorry.
And she if she had not hit her numbers by 7 or 8 o'clock, she would walk over to Target and hand out 5 brochures. And she said she still can't believe how much business she generated from passing out her brochure in Target.
Yeah.
It's doing something consistently to get in front of people. Now, ask yourself every day, how many people are finding out about your services? How many new people are you in front of each and every day? That is the key secret to this business. It's not how much do you know about real estate. It's, do people know that you're in real estate? Are they finding out about you? And, it's that consistency, meeting those people, getting them in your database, and then just realizing it's following up with them ad nauseum. Don't judge them, we talked about this a lot. You meet somebody at an open house, you have a great conversation, you follow up with them 2 or 3 times, they don't return your phone calls, and what's the story you tell yourself?
They're not mine.
They aren't buying, they don't like me, we didn't connect, they're jerks.
I don't think that, they're not mine.
And so I'm not going to follow up anymore. Keep following up. Until they call you and tell you, never contact me again, ever.
Ever.
One of my best clients, and you met with him, Kristen, was John. How long was it like 3 years before he actually sold a bunch? I never let go, I always just followed up, and he's one of my biggest referral sources. And before he ever sold his house, I think I'd already sold 3 others, and he referred me. And then I ended up selling, because he told me we're never going to sell now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're never going to sell
He
now.
told me that story too.
Yeah, we're just gonna stay here forever. And I was like, okay, got it, which I know that's bullshit.
Yeah.
So I just I'm like, okay, whatever. But I just really liked them too. They were really cool people. And I always think, well, okay, I don't care if you ever sell or not. I just I know you have friends that will all over your family. So I just kept at it, and they ended up selling and buying, and I still refer. And I refer him. It's a mutual relationship. I refer him people that totally trust him. He's a financial planner, so that I now work with him because he.
Me too.
It's because he's like really amazing. Yeah, I'll hook you up with him. You just can never stop, and I just
Your
never
dog tells
stop.
a story about the guy that he kept calling to the point he wanted to fight him.
Yeah.
I was going to beat him up if you called me again. Remember that?
Right, exactly. I know. It's just one of those things. I knew one day, because life happens. And the reason why they ended up selling was because life happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, life happened. And life happens to everyone. And there's been plenty of times where I'm like, I'm gonna stay here forever.
Yeah.
7 residents later, right? or I'm gonna be married to this guy forever. Okay. So, yeah, life happens. Right? So what else do you guys have?
So
to say?
here's the question for you all. We've gone through, we've spent a few times talking about building your marketing plan. So here's the question. If you showed us your marketing plan, how many of you know your marketing plan would be so impressive that Rob and I would go and share it with every agent we could come in contact with, say, look at this incredible plan. This is
I could use that as my
kick-ass."
prop for recruits. Anybody?
And if not, why not?
I think ours is.
You're getting there.
Get there, I love you. It's getting there, baby doll, it's getting there.
Well, I'm gonna make another adjustment after today, you know?
So, next week, Pablo, do you want to go through your plan?
Yeah.
All right. See, let's get them to be all see what all we guys do, because you guys do have.
I wish I could like open a door. Like, have you ever seen Being John Malkovich or anything? Like, I wish I could open a door to my head and like have you hop in it and let you see how I see your future. Like, I'm like, okay, so she's gonna dominate this, and she's gonna dominate this, and he's gonna dominate this. Like, I already have it in my head. I just wish you could see like my movie,
Yeah, I know.
you know?
I gotta see your movie.
Yeah. It's like, I'm like, oh, okay, they've got this, and we'll just have to do this, and we'll do this, and we'll do that. And yeah, so I've already imagined it for you, so.
I have to say, I've been working a farm with Greg for over a year. And we buy the postcards bulk, like 1,000, because you get more for your money, and then just break it up. Before, Greg was putting it all 1,000, and we were just mass delivering. And then I made my plan was to door knock every house. It took me 3 months. So now we just narrowed it down to homes that, and I kind of do it intuitively. Like if there's a recent sales, I'll just say let's door knock in this area, and just start highlighting this sale or something.
Okay.
So, but it's frustrating.
Well,
My
and
first appointment,
so-
you guys making appointments too?
so the key is to make sure that when you're mailing something in there, that it really is promoting you,
Okay.
that you, so that just at that glance, I look at it and oh, that's Jill.
Okay.
If
So we need to.
if I can't, and this is where a lot of people say, well, I've been farming, and I see so many of the farming materials where it's a house and, and first team is the star,
Yeah.
and the agent is buried somewhere, and I think, oh no, this is not building a brand. Now, some of you heard my story. When I started out, I went to work for Century 21. And I had an old school broker that said door knock. And I was working as a Marine, so I had income, but I worked a mid-crew, so I went to work at 12 o'clock every night. And I usually got off at 3 or 4 in the morning. So I had a lot of time, so I door knocked 3 to 4 hours a day, 4 or 5 days a week for a year. And I generated 2 transactions in my farm in my first year. Now, I took every one of the Century 21 flyers that they gave me, and most of them at that time you hand wrote your name on it. A few of them I actually paid to print my picture on it and pass those out. And I did that religiously for a year, but 2 transactions.
Two,
I
I would
was,
say, wow.
and
Man,
I think
that's
one of them
terrible.
was.
For every day. Oh my gosh. It is
Wow.
very discouraging.
So my first year in real estate, I sold a whopping $180,000 in real estate. That was 2 transactions.
But that's good though. I mean, for door knocking.
Every day? No way. Look at that. No way.
So-
Again.
So I was really frustrated, and I took a marketing class at Cal State Fullerton. And he had me write a marketing campaign. I put huge amounts of effort into it, and he basically told me I was gonna get a C on mine. And I don't get C's in anything. And I said, well, why? This is beautiful, look at this. He said, well, what are you selling? I said, well, I'm selling real estate, I'm a realtor. He said, yeah, that's why you're getting a C minus. I said, wow. He said, what are you selling? I said, I'm selling real estate. That's why you're getting a C minus. He said, I feel like you sat through my whole semester and you didn't get anything that I talked about in the whole class. And I kept going around and around with him. And he finally said, well, Greg, let me ask you, you keep saying you sell real estate, how many houses do you currently own? I said, well, none. He said, so how do you sell what you don't have? I said, well, I'm not selling my house, I'm selling other people's houses. He said, so what are you selling? I was dense. He said, well, I'm selling houses. He says, no. And he finally said, aren't you selling your services? I said, well, yes. He said, but there's nothing about your services. There's nothing about you here. You are going to sell this house, and you're never going to build anything of long-term value because you're going to sell a house. And then that house is gone, and you're going to have to go find another house. And he said, you have a choice. You can build a brand based on you, or you can sell a bunch of houses, and you're always going to have to cold call and prospect for the rest of your life. And that's when I bought a cape and a crown,
Oh, yes, you did.
and I took a picture, and I called myself the Condo King, the Cordova King in Mission Viejo. And Cordovas are a bunch of starter houses from 950 to 1,450 square feet. But that was my market. I was in the Marine Corps, and I had never sold a Cordova. When I took that picture, and within a year, I'd sold $3.5 million worth of real estate as the Cordova King. And the funny thing is, as soon as I called myself the Cordova King, nobody ever asked me how long I had been in real estate or how much real estate I'd sold. Because I was the Cordova King. And when you're
Right?
the king,
You don't ask the king.
Self-proclaimed Cordova.
Yeah.
and to me it's always magical, and yet 40 years later, I still see agents making the same mistake. Now, part of what this guy that I really became friends with, got me to do was go back and do research. The year before I started farming, Century 21 in my particular farm took 6 listings total. I farmed every day for a year. I took 2 listings. But Century 21, the company, took 24 listings that year in my area. Now, most of them came into my office on floor time. It was back when we still had floor time, because nobody ever asked for me by name.
Because the name, yes, I believe that.
Because Century 21 was the dominant thing on everything. And I still remember the day that there was a guy that I talked to probably 10 times about selling his house. And I couldn't believe it when he listed with somebody else.
I know him.
Well, it's the name
I mean-
recognition.
I walked in on Broker's Caravan, and he said, Greg, it's so good to see you. And I said, I was devastated. I said, why didn't you call me? He said, well, don't you guys all work together? I called your office. I assumed you all shared everything.
How would he know otherwise?
Oh.
That's what the company led him to believe.
And to me, that's when this is your business. Now, I think First Team is a great company, but I do want you to know they are not going to pay you unless you sell something.
Now someone tells me, what?
Finally.
Man, keep waiting for that check, it just doesn't come.
Say, you don't get paid anything for effort. So to me, that's why I make sure that you're always the star in all your other marketing. All right, go do some work.
Yeah.
Work. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And next week, we'll have Pablo go through his marketing.
Yeah, and now after we door knock, these houses that we end up listing because we're giving them market updates.
Well,
We're feeding them like, oh, we have equity, and I'm like, but they never called us.
because you're providing information without a brand.
You can for a new week.
Okay.
That is so significant.
So you're stimulating the marketplace by your activity.
Yeah.
You just aren't getting paid for it.
That's exactly
Because
it.
they call their realtors.
Yeah. And our pictures are that little half inch on the back page.